Welcome back, ninja community and persons that have just become ninja enough to view my materials. Congratulations on being ninja enough to view my materials. In this video, I'm going to be covering some moves or techniques, some real Shinobi techniques with bostaff or a bostaff-like weapon, as most of these movements or techniques are ambiguous with weapons that are remotely similar to a bostaff. Okay, before I get into that though, I will go over my quality statement and disclaimer, mostly out of liability, so bear with me as I run through it real quick. That of course is, the viewer understands my quality statement and disclaimer video. Additionally agrees that this video here could be treated as is with ballistic protection, which in short means I don't have a seal on it, therefore I don't guarantee the techniques and or your application of the techniques. And if you're watching this video with the intention of using any of its content in committing a crime, that is also a crime. Actually using any of my content in committing a crime is a crime. Okay, in my last video with the bostaff, I went over a few things. One was the height or sizing of your bostaff. A good size for your bostaff is within 3 inches above or below your own height. That might have had something to do with how they were cut from bamboo. Might. Okay, as you can see, you would kind of have to not cut right on one of these. It would have to be a little bit off from it. Okay, so in my last video I covered a few techniques that exist within just about every martial arts style, and of course you can see that this staff here is much larger than within 3 inches above or below my height. So the moves that I covered in the last one was just standard strikes this way, okay, from like a forward stance, and coming from underneath here, or from here over the top. Okay, and I also went over this, okay, and the strike that goes towards your opponent's head, right, and as they duck, that can be done from this position here quickly, as a skilled fighter, even caught off guard, might duck. And once they duck, you drop lower and hit behind their kneecap and lift up using like a fulcrum. Okay, so that looks like this. Okay, in this video I'll cover a few more rolls like this. Okay, so rolls across this way. Also, a real Shinobi might spin using their arms in a pronate position. Very rarely, or it will be avoided to ever cross in a pronate position. The reason for this is if my opponent has taken away my advantage of having a very long weapon with reach, right? If they have decided to take away my advantage by stepping in closer, and if they have done so while I was in a pronate position like this, I mean a supinate position like this, and they have impacted my bostaff or bostaff-like weapon, it might cause me to be locked down this way. A real Shinobi is going to typically take away an opponent's advantage. And from this position, as you can see, the thumbs would be difficult to try to avoid this, as just some simple pressure across the top with one hand could, and if you had your opponent pinned, could lock your opponent down from utilizing the great advantage of the bostaff. Okay, so that would look like this if I was the recipient of such a trap. Okay, it would be from this position. If they have stepped in and placed their arm there and trapped my lower body and pushed down, it would look like this. As the most I could do is try to spin this way or try to turn my hands. This is why a real Shinobi is going to spin across this way from a pronate position, because even an impact from a pronate position does not lock down the Shinobi. Okay, let's see. Also in this video, since the movements are typically ones that are ambiguous with weapons that are remotely similar, some of these movements are applicable to spear or other weapons that have some sort of different part on the end. Okay, from this position, one could simply do a strike this way, or even from back here, right, throw it this way as giving them more reach, and that would look like this. Okay. That movement is typically aimed at your opponent's neck, like right here. It is considered a deadly or lethal strike, as it typically does the job. And that is, of course, why I have a quality statement and disclaimer. This movement here could be done from a relatively relaxed or non-threatening looking position. Other things that can be done from this position is a simple block, like a simple inward version of a block, and following into that movement. Okay. Aside from the inward block, one could simply do another block, or from this position pull this way, or even come back around this way. And it even helps with the power by pivoting the body. These are very simple techniques, and of course they are ambiguous with various weapons that are remotely similar, as I'm showing a demonstration with a airsoft rifle here. If it had an affixed bayonet, the thrust this way is pretty much the same. The outward block is pretty much, or the inward block is pretty much the same. Additionally, so is the other block. Okay, so if you watched the video so far, you should probably hit like hard like a ninja and subscribe to be alerted for when I do videos on YouTube. I'll keep going with this video, but before I do, I will let you know that you can share my video with people who are ninja, but not with people who ought to be ninja, because they might accidentally learn something. Okay, now the roll across the knuckles. It's very rarely that you would see someone try to train with two bow staff, for good reason. But if you happen to get two, it's much easier just to get rid of one of them. Now I've went over some things that, like, I picked up a ninja handbook, and I was like, some of this stuff just doesn't seem quite ninja. Like, one of the things in there, I was like, you know, I've never been able to do that. So I will show one technique with a bow staff that is close to what's in the supposed ninja handbook. It's not in the ninja handbook, the one that's sold, but this technique actually works. I think I covered that this was my intellectual property that I'm allowing others to view. As long as you say that you learned it from a real Shinobi, cool. You know, that's mostly it. So in this one, let's see if you can see this. Now, the technique they had where someone takes their foot and rolls the bow staff back. Now, this is not very practical, because usually bow staffs are not exactly round, and they're not exactly going to spin that way across the ground. The technique was rolling it across the top of your foot and then kicking it at your opponent. I'll show a technique similar to that. Say if you were in some tall grass and you somehow managed to get your foot under the bow staff, you could kick it at your opponent as a distraction. It's probably not going to be very effective, but just a simple distraction. If you already have your bow staff and your opponent might have dropped theirs, that would probably be where it's applicable. So if a technique doesn't seem like it makes sense, question the technique, find out where it's applicable. So until next time, my friends, stay ninja. Oh, you can also find me on Facebook under my artist name or my 10th ninja name, Mel, that's Neleo. And I have an Instagram, but I'm not telling you what the Instagram name is. You'll just have to be ninja and go figure that out on your own. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, share, and stay ninja. Let's see, I have another bow staff I wanted to show. Hang on. Okay, here's another bow staff, where closer to a half staff. Now, it's better to train with a bow staff that is within your height or within 3 inches above or below your own height. These movements here that I've shown, the spins, they're ambiguous with weapons that are similar to a bow staff, or that are bow staffs. They're also ambiguous with bladed weapons such as a nagasashi. Let's see, there's one more technique that's typically only applicable if the end has blades out the side, right? And that comes from the thrusting position. As you have thrusted, you simply turn to the side and pull back, as you would be brushing at the neck of your opponent as you have missed the strike, or if they've dodged. Or you can even go to the other side and pivot this way as you have come back. Okay, the other spins or strikes would be moving while you do the technique. As in my other videos, I mentioned that once you learn a simple strike, right, you should probably learn just simply to walk forward or back, or to use your footwork of whatever form you use with the weapon. As in a real fight, you might want to be able to move around. Okay, so the turns, right, from like here, and you could come across here, or you can come across the top here. That's fairly simple. Okay, you could even move like this. Okay. Okay, here. Adding a spin once you have gotten used to doing spins, right? So, more techniques with the bow staff from here, as this would be ambiguous with a bladed weapon, and of course is ambiguous with weapons that are similar. One wouldn't typically spin this, but if you were to be disarmed, or someone was attempting to disarm you, that's where it would be applicable with a similar weapon. But if you simply move it to the side like this with a bayonet and coming back across this way, that's where it could be applicable to a different weapon. And going back to a half staff, or close to a half staff. Now it's good to train with staffs that are not within that 3 inches, because in a real fight, if you was to improvise a weapon on the spot, you might not be using the exact height, the exact specifications. Okay, there's some more techniques with tripping. Now there are some really talented bow staff practitioners out there. They have some really good moves. You should probably check those out. I don't know those movements well enough to give instruction on them. I will share what I know. So movements like this, even if it was a bladed weapon, coming from this way across the top here is one movement that is ambiguous with staff-like weapons. Okay, so the strike to an opponent's face, where you come back around to trip, the follow-up technique would simply be to take the end and strike downward like that, usually in a vital area, somewhere like ninja pressure points would typically be at the nose, under the chin, like at the neck, right here at the sternum, or at the groin. Those are typical pressure points that a ninja, a real shinobi, is going to be hitting very, very hard. So the trip from a missed strike, as your opponent might have ducked, and you come underneath and you use it as a fulcrum to trip them, The follow-up technique is simply to come from here straight down as you pivot the body and hit. And I imagine you could probably finish them off once all that's happened to them. So if you watch the video, you should hit like hard like a ninja.